And it's not just people that struggle with the heat. Animals need to keep cool as well today. Let's bring in Dolf DeJong, the CEO of the Toronto Zoo. Dolf, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We know the lions and tigers are probably okay, but what about the polar bears and the northern animals? How do they handle this heat?
Well, the key thing is, first of all, our team is watching them so closely. Both our animal care staff and our welfare department are out there keeping a close eye and really ensuring optimal choice control for the animals in our care. You can see the polar bears here in their outdoor pools, making sure there is these opportunities to cool down in each of their spaces. And if they like, sometimes they can actually go right inside to their air-conditioned holding to chillax. And that's one of the facilities that also has an ice-making machine in it. So the team will actually be putting ice out so they can actually roll in it, cool down, and they really seem to enjoy that as well.
And do they know that they have an air-conditioned place to get into? Like, are they well aware of that?
They are well aware. And the other thing about those areas is they have such a strong relationship with their animal care staff. If our team's in there, they'll often join them in there. So they'll choose to do that. And we often talk about species, but we need to talk about individuals. Some of the individuals do enjoy the heat a little more than others, and the bigger bears, more likely to go inside as they're carrying that extra weight, and it's a little harder to get around.
And so some of these animals, do they ever see heat like this up north?
Well, I think that's one of the real important things for us to talk about, that this is becoming more and more prevalent. We're seeing more of these heat events, and this is a real risk, particularly for Arctic species that can't just shift further north. So something great partners, organizations like Polar Bear International are doing a lot of work on this and realizing that we could be into potentially our last generation of polar bears on the planet in certain regions if we don't start to slow the impacts of climate change.
And what can be done down here to kind of help those animals then?
Well, here, the work our team's doing every day to care for their welfare and make sure they're thriving as much as possible. But this is one of those moments where everybody needs to slow down, yes, to manage the heat, but also a moment for reflection. We're well past 400 parts per million carbon dioxide. What are the choices we're making in our daily lives as far as how we're getting around, what our diet looks like, and how do we take those steps to make sure a better future for wildlife?
And just on a bit of a lighter note, what about the animals that actually like this and are glad to see this weather?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Our savanna animals are out. They're enjoying the heat. But even them, when we start getting into those 30s, you'll see them in the shade, often having those naps in the afternoon. So our guests, they have to work a little bit harder to find them. But the Arctic wolves and a lot of them will be out and just looking for those slightly cooler spaces. And on a day like today, looking for those high points as well where they can catch a bit of a breeze.
And for people wanting to come visit, when's the best time?
I always recommend beginning and end of day is really when you're going to see optimal movement. Yeah, people often forget that we're open till 7 p.m. at this time of year, and those last few hours of the day can often be fantastic as our team continues to work with the animals, provides their evening diet opportunities, but also the animals start to get active after their afternoon naps.
Okay. Dolf, thanks very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Have a great one.
Dolf DeJong is the CEO of the Toronto Zoo.